Give it a second.
Live stream. Wow.
Yeah, I've connected Zoom to YouTube Live. Okay, here we go. I just have to mute it. There we go. Perfect. So, hi, Laura. Nice to
Hi,
see
Lynn.
you.
Good to see you. It's been too long.
I know it has been too long, but I always love catching up. Obviously, in person is better, but we do what we can. You know. So for those of you who are watching, Laura is the founder of a beautiful chakra fragrance brand called Auratherapy. She's been doing this for a while, so she is a wealth of knowledge because she has, it's what, 10 years longer?
The beginning of it is getting to 10 years. The new brand is only not even a year old, but it's like a
Right.
rebrand, but it feels like a new brand to
Well,
me.
that's nice that it's like a refresh for
Yeah.
you. It's like yeah. So we'll talk about that too, because the rebrand was something that happened both opportunistically and kind of out of necessity.
Yeah.
But anyway, so
Well, do
let's,
you know today, like this weekend is the year anniversary. I don't like talking about it. Nobody wants to, but the hurricane was a year
um,
ago to this weekend.
it was
So
a year
here,
ago.
it's a
Wow,
year
that's how
ago. I
time
know.
flies. It
I
doesn't seem
know.
like it was that long ago.
So they're celebrating in Asheville, resilience and courage, and things are back kind of the way they were. And it's sort of like you don't want to remember any of it, but here we are, and it's been a year. So, yeah, so the rebrand happened because of that. And I guess silver linings, right?
Silver linings. So, okay, let's just give people a little bit more context. So, Laura is in Asheville right now, and hurricane, which one was it?
Helene. Yeah, Helene.
Helene. There was Helene and Milton. Milton, I think, got Florida more, and Helene got Asheville. So unfortunately, Laura's warehouse was basically flattened by Helene.
Yeah, yeah, flooded 3 units of storage with all of our stuff that we had just bought and we were scaling up. So it was like, okay, what do we do? And then we kind of knew tariffs were happening. So we also were trying to figure out when and what would happen if we needed to reorder. And we just did a 360 and decided at that moment to rebrand. We rebranded because when we went into retail, we had like the old brand, and then we had Auratherapy as our aura reading brand, and we really wanted to lead with that and start fresh. So we started fresh, new company, new brand, and then so yeah, it's been about a year, and it's been really good for us. So we're excited about
Well,
it.
congrats. I know that can be incredibly stressful going through that, but you've come out in a better place. And I think what you are talking about really embodies the spirit of a lot of our small businesses, which is, things happen all the time that are out of our control, but it's what you do with it that makes the difference. And instead
Yeah,
of, licking your wounds and, talking about all the negativity, Laura turned it into a positive. So that is a huge lesson for all of us, because again, there's stuff every day that we deal with that
yeah.
is just, I mean, I just got a shipment of my scalp scrubbers and they're all wrong.
Oh no,
They're not correct. They screwed them up. The factory screwed them up. So I have to send them all back. Like just things that you're
things
like,
like that.
really?
Oh yeah, yeah. Always something.
Always
Yep.
something. Okay, so let's maybe go back to the beginning because your business is an interesting one because you do both products and services.
Yeah.
And what was the first thing you did?
Yeah, so we first started with products and in
Okay.
a category that's really hard. So aromatherapy, which isn't really a category that exists in retail in the US. If you go into a big box, an Ulta, Sephora, no aromatherapy.
Yeah.
People think of it as, a MLM. There's a lot of brands that sell essential oils and they sell them for diffusers and making your own. So challenging category. When we opened up our own retail stores, and that was my COVID lesson, we brought an experience in, and we had always thought it would be fun to have the experience. We didn't yet know that if we could get these two things to completely connect, we'd have the razor blade story, right? Like that you always
Yes.
want. And so that's really what's been happening. And so that's been something that took a while. We've been doing that story for about 5 years with the two different stories. And then now we don't really think of it as one or the other. We think of it as the companies came together and people come into the journey with us either for product or for a service, but they do both more than 70% of the time. So that's been phenomenal. And because we do that experience, we now do, I'd say, probably 10 events a month. And we do events that are either for ourselves as branding and community building, or we're hired to do events for other people. And we bring what we do to them as an activation. And so it's a really interesting, different angle to the business, but it can take us to a canyon ranch for a yoga festival or a metaphysical weekend, or it can take us to an association like we just did. The Natural Products Association had an event in Asheville and we were the experience after their conference. And so it's like I never envisioned we'd have an event business, but here we are.
It's really interesting. And actually, we were just talking about the fact that I was at Shop Talk, and I actually just got back from Shop Talk. But one of the things they did at Shop Talk, and this was Chicago, which is a much smaller version, they actually had a bunch of experiential booths.
Mm,
They had one that was a color matching, and then they had one that was a make your own perfume. And the booth was a Shop Talks branded booth, but it was obviously they brought a partner in to do
right.
it. Oh my God, that would be a great thing for you to do too. You could probably
Yeah.
do that, you know.
I mean, going to events is like a whole thing, and it's
Yeah.
always like, how do you make money doing it? So sometimes you get paid to do it, sometimes you do it as the activation. But we just came off of doing a Canyon Ranch Lennox 3-day pop-up. Then we went to Bite in New York to
Oh yeah.
do a day of trade show, New York beauty. Before that, we had a 2-day trade show in Miami, which was for the spa industry and more of like property owners that own, multi-door properties. And in each one, we brought aura readers. And it's amazing. I think we did something like 250 aura readings and across all of those things. We always have a line. We have people who want to do it. It's like it's phenomenal. People really want to understand what's going on with them. They love the customization. They love that it's about them. And then the fact that then we can take them through a product journey and they can buy something and take it home is like that's the extra thing, right? And so like I feel very happy about my brand, because if I was a brand and I had to figure out how to pay for an activation so people wanted to do something with my brand, like I see big brands that have an ice cream truck or they
Yeah.
do something else, because what are you going to do? They sell a product. Ours
Yeah.
really ties in beautifully and people really like the whole journey. So now, my challenge as CEO is how to get it out there faster, more, and keep, consistency, and then also pick the right channels where it makes sense.
I love that. And that's a really another great marketing lesson around thinking about all the different touch points and all the senses, and not just thinking about, one moment or the conversion or, because
Yeah.
that's the thing. A lot of founders, I feel like, get hung up on just focusing on conversion.
Oh my gosh, no, I'm in all the numbers. So like when I look at it now as a retailer, obviously I look at, sales per square foot, but I'm also looking at my attachment rate. And so for me, it's like if they come and do an aura reading, do they buy a product? If they buy a product, do they do an aura reading? What percentage that does an aura reading buys a product? What's the average order value? What's the cart online? We book online so we can get the revenue online before they even come in. So it's a really interesting, not a traditional e-commerce model, not a traditional, event model, and also not a traditional retail model. So, getting through the data and figuring out what it's all saying. But, when we have big days, we're like, this is working really well. It's very exciting.
Oh my God, yes. So, okay, so for people listening, we talked about Asheville, and that's where Laura started, and her first sort of OG store location was in Asheville. But she also then launched a store in Miami in the Wynwood area, which is a very cool, hip, trendy, very young, very, yeah, I mean, I've been there a few times now, very interesting area. And let's talk about the contrast of those two.
Oh, yeah.
and what you've learned from Miami, and what do you, now that you've lived in Miami actually for a while, what, a
A
year?
year. It's a year too. Yeah, it's about a
Do you
year.
love
Yeah.
it? Do you hate it? What's your, yeah,
Yeah, it's so completely different. Asheville's very fun, small town. It's great to
yeah,
come here and not feel like you have all that, excitement. And then if you've been here a long time, you're like, where's the excitement? So Miami is a big city. It's not like New York though. It's a very different vibe and it's got a little bit more of a fitness and it's definitely a little bit more about like what are you wearing? What are you driving? All the stuff that's more material. So it was an interesting thing to go from one place that's very laid back and kind of bohemian and artsy to a place that's also artsy, but very much, the Miami vibe. And so I think we had to learn the customer, the difference. I'll tell you what's interesting as a beauty or, fragrance businesses in Miami, they'll come in and they'll make a reel and they'll post it and they have an Instagram and they're all about like, let me show you my thing. And they're doing something and they're professionals and they've got a business or they're an entrepreneur. In Asheville, they're there on vacation, right? And they're
yeah,
hanging out and they're laid back. And if you ask them even to follow you on social media, they'll say like, I don't do social media. So, when you're growing a brand, you want those people because that helps you grow. And if you get somebody who has a couple 100,000 followers who does an aura reading and posts something and all of a sudden you see your business start getting more sales, you're like, okay, yeah, that's what these other brands had. Now we have some of that too. And so that's been fun to see. And then we just have, as a brand, I'd say I'm about to not double down, but like 10 times down in terms of the content piece. Because the other thing we learned from doing social media and marketing is it is completely about the content. And so we do a ton of content and we're doing even more than we did before. That is like so we're really now we have a content director who's in charge of doing that. We have video editor. We're just building stories because the storytelling is what people see and it didn't exist before because you'd had to have the experience, but now we want you to have the experience before you even had the experience.
yeah, that makes sense. Okay, and there's so much to unpack in everything you just said. So let's just go back to Asheville and Miami, and
Yeah.
I just want to know, like, from your personal perspective, like, where, if you had to be
Oh.
somewhere stuck, which one would you pick?
Oh gosh. Well, I've been in Asheville for 8 years, right? And I was in New York for 30. So Miami's only a year. I am gonna be spending more time in Miami. I think the winters, especially, it's not a
Yeah,
bad place to be. So for me at that point, that's really nice. But I hadn't come back a long time. I've only been here a couple months, but this is the longest I've been here since I kind of started Miami. And I feel different here. I mean, I definitely feel more relaxed and it's easy. And you get in your car and you drive 5 minutes here and 10 minutes there. And that's nice. There's nothing wrong
yeah.
with it, but I think I still need to go, go do things, being a city girl.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's a good response. I mean, it is about balance. And that's what I'm finding too, is, I bounce between a number of places that are pretty different.
Yeah.
And it's the difference of the places that makes it interesting.
Mhm.
But then you also like, again, you like the change.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
Contrast. And
yeah, the
then,
contrast.
you do a fair amount of traveling, and I'm also doing a fair amount of traveling. I think traveling, what's interesting is, it ungrounds you, but then when you have more than one place, you're like, where am I going? And you don't always go back to the same places. So my body hasn't yet learned like to reground in each place. Like coming back here just feels totally natural. Going back to Miami, I feel like I check into a hotel when I get in my apartment. It feels like I'm in a hotel. But
Yeah,
then I'm there long enough and I'm like, no, it's home. But it's like your body has to relearn all the habits where, how do you get in your
yeah,
elevator? What's your code? Where do you park? Where do you put your keys? It's like
yeah,
a whole
that's
thing, right?
true. Everything. Yeah, that's fascinating. Okay, let's talk a little bit about your products and let's go back to the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Did you start with the roll-ons? Did you start with
Mm.
candles? What was your
Oh
first
gosh,
bit?
yeah. So this is a really interesting evolution. When we started, we had a roll-on chakra collection, and then we had some, or what we called at the time, room sprays, their body and
Okay.
room sprays, and that was it. That was the line. And we couldn't sell chakra because nobody understood what it was and where to put
Mhm.
it and why you needed it. And so we did a lot of research and we were thinking, okay, aromatherapy really is about helping you change how you feel. So we created a whole mood story. So we had mood boosts and chakra boosts. And we diluted everything to make it easy to understand. And we did well. Like when we first started, we had almost 500 doors between specialty, gift, and spa. But it didn't sell great because nobody understood what it was. It was cute
Mm.
packaging. It was a packaging story with a natural ingredient story. And it was like, why? What? And then, of course, no experience. So when the stores opened, which is about 4.5, 5 years into that journey, and COVID happened all at the same time.
Mhm.
And then we just had that product and we tried to sell it, and it wasn't an easy sell, but we had a cute little store. And then when Jim, my partner, came in and he started doing the aura readings, and the aura reading software we had a chakra line, it became, oh, look, here's these chakra products now. But the packaging, everything wasn't really designed to tie in. It was like very much about more of a giftable thing. So we redesigned the packaging, integrated the two things, kind of created this whole experience, and then we walked completely away from the mood story. But in the back of my mind, I always knew the mood story was interesting. I just knew that it needed to be done differently.
Sure.
So, da-da, here we are today, and we
Yeah.
are launching a new brand and a new collection called Moodzee. And Moodzee is what I learned from 10 years in the aromatherapy space, which is how do you bring aromatherapy to Gen Z, and how do you tell it in a new way that's completely different, and you simplify the story. So I'll just show you because I just got all my
Yeah.
samples in, and you were talking about that. So the hardest part of this was designing it. So this is a Moodsee box,
Beautiful.
and it's beautiful, and then inside it tells the story of the product. It's all single note essential oils that are pre-blended, and then we have this super cute bottle that's pill shaped, that's
Mhm.
just so fun, easy, chunky roller ball. And so people understand
Oh,
it. We
yeah.
don't we don't
So
even
cute.
say roll on anymore. We're using other language. So we say swipe, and
Oh, yeah.
borrowing from, Tinder. And and then we said, okay, this is really great. It comes with a little stand that it stands up in. The stories are very much like, how does this help you with your moods? And then we decided, like, you got to take them with you, of course, because that's a really fun thing. So we created different accessories. So we have keychains and bags and that kind of thing. And so each product
That's
now has
very trendy.
accessories. Yes,
Yep.
very trendy, very cool accessories, little,
Yes.
little leather bags that you can tie on your purse and put your moodsies in. And we just showed this at Bite, and everybody went nuts over it. So it hasn't launched. It's kind of pre-launched, and it's coming out in about a month. And it's fun, and it's, exciting to have a new brand and to be able to try to tell this story that's a different story than chakras, which is very unique and a whole other business. So, and it also brings us to different channels because this is definitely more of a big box, multi-door specialty retail story that's mass and volume. And chakras are probably more like a spa and retreat
Yeah.
and event. Yeah.
Yeah. This feels more social for
Mm-hmm.
sure. More
Mm-hmm.
sort of, you and your friends, and, each person has their own. Because how many do you have? You've got a bunch.
We have 6 cents in the single note
Okay.
and 3 in the performance blends. And so, you describe like finding opportunities. And so I saw a bid for a proposal, and it was a corporate proposal for gifting, and it was about the soccer, FIFA and that kind of thing. And I was like, oh, I always envisioned the blends that we have that are called Drive, Reach, and Focus being really
Yeah.
great for athletes, but like who has time to go figure out how to do business and sell in those channels. And like, where do you sell if
Yeah.
you're with athletes? So I just finished the proposal and it just opened up a whole new thing, which is we're now creating a story that's athletic and sports, and we're going to have bags and keychains that have balls, tennis balls, soccer balls, footballs, basketballs. And it's a story for athletes, and they have different kinds of keychains and different kinds of bags. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, this can go a lot of different ways. And so that's the part I think I love the most about the business is the branding and also the product development.
Yeah.
And the sales and marketing, of course, that is why you do it. If you can't do that, that's not going to happen. You're not going to do it much longer. But just yeah, we'll see how it goes, because it's very challenging today at retail, as you know, which is why you're doing what you're doing, which is so fabulous for indie brands, is we have to develop new channels to grow and thrive that are not the traditional specialty and big box, because many small brands go there to die.
That's what people don't fully realize, whether that's founders, consumers, whatever, is that those big box channels are not set up for brand discovery for indie brands. They say
Wow.
they are, some of them want to be a discovery place, but it's really about discovering other huge brands. And by the way, now I feel like you go into a Sephora, Ulta, Target, they all start to look the same.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, a lot of the
Yeah.
same brands. It used to be that a brand had to choose, like you were going to be in this one,
Yes. And not the other. Yeah. And
not
they,
the
yeah.
other. And now
Yeah.
it's like the Wild West in so many ways. But for small brands, it literally can put you out of business, because if you go into these big channels and you don't meet their requirements in terms of what they call velocity, which is how much product turns over, they'll kick you out.
Yeah.
And
And you
so,
can't do it unless you're, that's why the celebrity brands and the
yeah,
brands that are backed by venture or deep pocketed, CEOs, or, or there's groups that create brands that are groups, that have experience in the industry. All of these people, they understand the marketing first piece, and the product has to be somewhat good, but they sell a lot of product that is not that good. But they
right.
have the marketing piece really nailed down. So I think, yeah, I think it's like the consumer needs to understand and learn a little bit more about like where the value is along the supply chain, and the value is probably not in the one that's the one, because they're putting so much money into the publicity and the marketing. And,
Yeah.
yeah, I think we
No,
put
that,
more money into the product, into the ingredients, into the formulations. And, it's hard to be able to do all of it. So, in a way, a smaller brand might be a brand that has a very special story if you want to go find it. And that's why I love what you're doing, because you really can do that exploration and find brands that are much more, newer. You may not know them, but I think a lot of people still pick things they know and things they see other places. And it's just the way they do it because it's makes them feel confident about what they're doing. But I also think that younger people get their ideas and trends from other places now than a magazine or an editor,
right.
or,
No,
yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I definitely think in beauty, trust cues are absolutely critical. So they can come from a number of places. It could be an editorial PR piece, it could be a celebrity using it, or it
Mhm.
could be reviews, or it could, it could be a dermatologist recommendation, whatever.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's almost like our brains are so flooded with information that we look for these shortcuts.
yeah,
And it's very hard for small brands to deliver the shortcuts. So the bigger brands have it because they're recognized already. So they already have a huge advantage. Even if that recognition is fuzzy in your mind, if you're sort of, choosing between two brands, the one that's a little more familiar is generally the one that's going to be the one that you pick.
yeah,
So it's tough. But yeah,
yeah,
you're right. Like for us, our model with the Power Beauty Collab has been to try to find partners that are also small businesses where we can go in there and complement their whatever they're doing, and offer their customers something new and interesting. And the thing that I do feel really strongly about is that the brands that are in the PBC, which including yours, have such great products. Like we don't have any brands where I feel like, oh, they're
Yeah.
like, I love the founder, but the product's not so much. I really don't have that. Uh,
Yeah.
if anything, it's the other way around.
I use so many of the products from the brands there and have come to love many of them. Face products, some makeup products, some lip products. Yeah, I've experimented with different ones when we had them in the store in Miami, and I'm not a big beauty consumer, and I was like, I don't need that many lotions or creams, but I tried different ones and I was like, ooh, I really do like this. So I think that's how you
Yeah.
discover. I think it's just there's a lot of categories in beauty that are really challenging because they're so oversaturated. And I do think you can have mini niche stories that are successful, but I think again, as entrepreneurs, being niche is being niche. And if you try to be niche and think niche can get big, that's the mistake, right? So like very
Yes,
careful about like,
totally agree with that.
oh, going past something that really isn't designed to be for everyone, that's where you get into trouble.
Yeah, I think a lot it's a balancing act, right? It's a very fine line to walk because you want a differentiated positioning, which, is hard, especially in categories that are so crowded and everyone's done everything, it feels like. So the stuff that is different tends to be the stuff that's on the fringe or the more
Yeah.
niche.
Yeah.
And so it's like you're solving one problem by making something nobody else has done, but the other problem is, well, maybe there's a reason nobody else has done it and it only appeals to like 10 people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
tricky. I mean, and I have a little bit of that conundrum with my hair care because on one hand, we formulated to really work for virtually every hair type and texture, and we wanted it that way because I'm a big believer in simplicity, having worked on
Yeah.
L'Oreal, Nexus, other big brands where they're not simple,
Yes.
have way too many choices, it's way too hard for the consumer, and I wanted to do the opposite. But the flip side of that is you have people going, oh, well, it's not for my hair type because there's no way
Right.
that
Because now
something
they
that
niched
works
it.
for for
Yes.
for
Oh my gosh.
everyone could work for me, and it's like,
Yes.
so it's
You know what you brought up is really interesting. It's this kind of this swing effect that you get in all these, whether it's the food categories, any consumer product category, whereas it used to be like broad and then it got very niche and the niche things started to happen. And then what happens is all the big guys start doing niche and then niche can't be niche. And so it's like, there's a point where it doesn't matter anymore. Like there's nothing left to do. I think
yeah,
everything's been done. So then what's the unique story? That's what you have to figure out. And I don't think it's that easy, to be honest. I think it's very hard because they have more dollars and they have distribution and they can take your idea and do it there, wherever they do it. Does the consumer care? I don't know if they really do. I think it's more like what the consumer seems to have been interested in is this little piece that happened when e-commerce started. The Warby Parkers and the Caspers. And if you lived in New York and you saw some of these brands emerge where it was like, oh, it's cool, it's new, it's different, it's only online. That was like an interesting story because then you had these new brands, but they all have gone since then retail and they
yeah,
all do multi-channel and they all are everywhere. So that's not a story anymore either. So I think that's the hard thing is like figuring out new channels to me is probably the more interesting part of what's coming versus trying to come up with a differentiated product because there's nobody needs another skincare line or hair care line or
exactly.
makeup
No, they
line or
don't.
no.
No, you're right. And so that's why I think what we're doing with the PBC at least feels like we're unlocking sort of a new way for small brands to be discovered. Now, it's hard
Oh
because
yeah.
it's literally like brick by brick. And you saw how hard it is when we did Wynwood.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
and some of the brands sell better than others, and some sell better in some locations than others. And some of the founders are very like naive and they don't really understand that their packaging isn't really going to work at retail. There's lots of issues.
Yeah. You know what, but here's the thing I learned when I was selling a product and I didn't have a retail store, I was a complete bumbling idiot. The fact that I sold anything was a miracle because
Yeah.
we did have a little concept. We had like a display and you had testers in front and you could put it on a shelf and it was like backfilled. So it was kind of like a vending machine and they had to buy a minimum order to fill it and then some back stock. So that was kind of smart and it displayed well and you had to have the displays and God, I remember at the beginning I didn't have enough money to buy displays because the displays were so expensive and I had to like make displays to sell my product. I was like,
Yeah.
who thought I was going to be in the display business? But then what I realized as a retailer is absolutely about the packaging and the readability and the colors and the display and what fits on the shelf.
And
When you
just
go
the
into all these big,
clarity.
yeah, the big
That to
box
me is a big piece
places,
of it. Yeah.
yeah, they all have, the end caps and special displays that are custom that make it look like what you're used to when you walk into those stores. But when you just take a shelf and you line up boxes and bottles, it's not that easy. Everything
No,
doesn't
it's
look
not.
good, it's like things don't stand up. So all of these are things that aren't addressed when you're creating your product in a vacuum. A picture on a website can look amazing and that is easy, but then the physical thing of the touching of it, the opening of it, the standing up of it, the turning in all of it, that is so important. So I think what you
Yeah.
do is a secondary thing. You're giving everybody a distribution opportunity, but you're also giving them a master class in retail, which they would not have unless they're at retail already. And then the other thing that you're doing is you're making them understand that your product doesn't sell unless you're there to sell it. And that is the
That's
difference
a
of having
hard
my own
lesson,
store. And then so you could send you the stuff, you put it out there. It ain't going to sell unless they do
right?
the social media, they drive the traffic to your store, they come to your store, they do an event. And none of them have enough time or resources maybe to do that, or not none, but most. And so it doesn't work. And then you're like, why isn't it not working? Well, because that's the fundamentals are missing. And
And
yeah.
that's the tough part is that because I've done also like show fields, neighborhood goods,
Mhm.
beta, forum stores when they were in business. Like there's a bunch. And yeah, unless you really lean in, and that's why also a lot of the big box retailers tell you you have to have a marketing budget as part of getting in. You have to also then be responsible for
That's
driving
right.
traffic in. So it's an expensive proposition to be in retail, and getting on the shelf is not the end goal. That's like the
Mhm.
starting point.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of founders, unfortunately, have this perception that if I just put my products on shelf, they're just going to fly off the shelf. And I've never seen that happen.
No,
Like
I
there's
mean, the
not one
products, yeah.
brand that that's happened.
No, I see in my store what products fly off the shelf, but they fly off the shelf because of the experience. And if they don't, then they fly off the shelf because the whole thing is branded and it's an experience
Yeah.
in and of itself. The hardest thing, and this is what we learned in Miami, is when you're new somewhere, nobody knows you're there. So of course, it takes time for them to discover you and to get the word of mouth and the people to walk by. Pop-ups are inherently difficult because you're there 3 months. By the time the third month, and maybe then all of a sudden somebody knows about you. But like the first 2 months, how do they know? So you're
Yeah.
counting on traffic from the person who has the space, and they're probably have minimum marketing time because they're small indie business themselves, which is why, finding places that have a higher marketing threshold probably makes sense. But the same thing is then they have other things that get attention and you aren't getting the attention. So I think that's the hardest nut to crack is how do you create velocity for your own brand and where is that happening? Is it happening in this physical space? Is it happening online on social media at events? Like that's what I think is the challenge. But
Yeah, no, well said. That is definitely the challenge. Well,
yeah.
let's just kind of wrap up because we could talk forever
Yes.
about all this
It's
stuff.
like a master class in
Oh,
all
and
of
what
it.
not to do, right? Yeah, no, it's
Yes.
true. But so you've got Moodsee. What else is coming down the pike for you? And
Yeah. Yeah.
excited
So we
about
have,
moving
yeah,
into
we
next
have, so we
year.
had too much coming down the pike and it was like, how do we do all the things? So we have a book coming out that Jim and I
I
wrote that's
saw that's
about horror
amazing.
readings. And then we launched a massage oil that was fun. That's more for the spa channel. So a little extension to our collection of chakra scents
Yeah.
in a different formulation. But we had an opportunity to do a pop-up in New York, and it was like I should have said no, but instead I said yes because I had, a vision. This year we were going to try to do LA, so we did a Well and Good pop-up in May in LA, and we said we want to do New York, but like who can afford it? And we were given a space that's really interesting. It's free, so that was like a huge
Yeah.
benefit. And then it was like, how do we turn this space into something that makes sense? And what do we want to do? So we're turning it into a PR opportunity, which we've not done. We've always done things without a lot of PR support. So November, it starts October 16th through November 9th. It's going to be in the West Village. And we called it the Aura Sanctuary New York pop-up. And because we haven't talked about it here, but we bought a church
Yeah.
that we're restoring and fixing up in Asheville. And the church is called Aura Sanctuary, and it will be our factory and an event space and our offices. And it's taking a long time to do it. And so we said, let's make this space like Aura Sanctuary New York. So we kind of branded the thing that goes the space. And then in the space now we have an activation that's the pop-up, which we call the Awakening. And the Awakening is a series of 7 rooms that you go through a chakra journey. And then we've been collecting all these incredible friends, artists, healers, guides over the years doing the People We Adore series, which is our kind of live blog series. And so we found like 5 of our favorite people, and they're each going to be anchoring a room with an
Oh, I love
experience.
that.
So it's like a journey. And so we have the 1111 journey and the 333 journey and the 222 journey. They're all angel numbers. And then each journey is you pick what activation you want, and then there'll be a little store in the front. And so we're going to do that. The difference this time is we hired the big PR firm, which was kind of, something I didn't feel I was ready until now. And so we'll see if that works, because that was
Yeah.
always the other question is like, when you do PR, does it actually
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
anything? But a lot of this is pay to play. So if you don't get the PR, then as you know, most of the stuff you see in all the editorial, somebody paid to be there. So the
Exactly.
other alternative is to get them to write about you. So experiment number 100. This one's a big one, and we'll see how it goes. But it does require I'm in New York for a month, which is a big fun thing too. And I have a grandbaby, so I get to see my
Yay.
grandbaby a little bit. So that's what I do. I mix the work with the family and the personal, try to get it all to line up as best you can, and then say yes to many things.
My approach as well. And I think we're very like-minded in that way. And I think it's pretty much worked for us.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. Well, I hope to see you in New York. It sounds
Yes.
like an amazing activation. And thank you so much for joining. And just let's remind people where they can find you.
Yeah, come to Asheville, and we're downtown Asheville at the Grove Arcade, or in Miami in Wynwood. And then in New York, we're going to be on Sullivan Street in the West Village. It's going to be between Bleecker and Houston. So really fun neighborhood. And then you can find us online at auratherapylife.com and on socials, Auratherapy Life.
Yay. All right. Well, we will do another one of these after your New York experience to just see,
Yeah.
how did it go? Because I would love to hear about
Fantastic.
that.
Yeah, and we never got to chat, but part of this is I can only do a month, but the space will be set up. And so we never got a chance to talk, but if I can extend till December, which I'm being told
Yeah.
we could, I was like, what could we do next? Because I don't have the energy to hold fort, but maybe we can do a PBC in New
Yeah, I
York
love that.
and figure out if that makes
That would
any
be
sense.
awesome.
All right, so we'll have to talk.
All right. Well, thank you so much, and I'll talk to you